Hello and welcome back to the Prior Plays Then and Now podcast. I am your Hampton football enthusiast, TJ Jones, and we have another special guest today as we're going to be discussing the spring ball that has recently taken place at the university, and we're doing it with Mr. Gerrold M. Walker II. Gerald, how you doing? Welcome to the podcast.
Hey, thank you for having me on. This is fantastic. Your podcast is a great platform, and I'm honored to be on it.
Well, I'm looking to touch base with folks who are supporters of the program and ultimately those of us who want to see it do well, regardless of current circumstances, right? We are interested in the long-term success of the program and the people who are participating in it. So specifically, I was connecting with you. We have a chat that we participate in, and you mentioned that you were able to attend. Now, and so I am very excited to have you be able to talk about what that experience was like. I want to point out that leading up to that, I've had multiple conversations with individuals like my brother who's been on the show and Mr. Adam Spencer, who's also been on the show. And we at one point thought there might not be a spring exhibition game, showcase, whatever you want to call it, because there simply might not be enough players to have it. And so I thought it was great that they did anything, and yet it seemed to be a little bit of a different setup or system. Took place on April 18th at noon, which was a week ago Saturday. Tell us what it was like.
So, first of all, the weather was perfect. It was about 75 degrees, sunny, just a beautiful day to be out on campus. And this was actually the first time I've ever been to a spring game for Hampton, and I've been following the football team since my freshman year in '91, and it never just occurred to me to go to a spring game, but for some reason, it felt like something was in the air. There was an energy around the program, and I just wanted to check it out. Had some time, so I went to the game, and I honestly was not expecting there to be much of a organized kind of effort. I don't know exactly what I was expecting, but I was definitely expecting the minimum, right? Just so I was pleasantly surprised that there were a number of folks in the stand, maybe a couple of hundred,
Wow.
between both sides on at Armstrong. A lot of family members of the players were there, but then also what kind of blew me away was there were a lot of football alumni that were there in attendance that had been invited. And I don't know if they do this for every spring game, but I was surprised to see them there. And they were set up in the south end of the end zone. And they had their own little tent. They had the buffet situation set out for them. They had a cigar lounge, a mobile cigar lounge that was brought out there for them. So it looked like the athletic department kind of went all out to kind of bring players, particularly players who had had success and were part of the program when Hampton was winning championships and we were playing at a high level, back to be engaged with the program, it was fantastic to see. And I was completely not expecting that. The game itself wasn't really a game. It wasn't a traditional four quarters type of offense versus defense going up and down the field. It was really a lot of drills with the different position groups and then some 7-on-7 work. And one of the things that kind of stood out to me is during the entire day, the pace was consistent and proficient. There was no wasted time, no wasted minutes or efforts. It was just very well scheduled, and they really kept to that schedule. And then the coaches, like, they were loud, they were present, but they were very positive. You know, there were some sloppy moments on both sides of the ball during the drills, during the 7-on-7 action, but the way the coaches addressed it it was kind of different. It wasn't derogatory or putting players down or anything like that. It was
Mm.
more like intense encouragement. Let's get this together. Let's go again. Like, forget about that play. Let's go to the next play. A lot of instruction on what you did wrong, what you did right. That was very evident on both sides of the ball. Coach Malone was there, but he wasn't very vocal. He allowed his position coaches and his coordinators basically to run this event, and it went off smoothly from an organizational perspective. It seemed very well organized, very smoothly run and executed. The play itself, I think Coach Malone said there was a lot of work to be done,
Yeah.
and I would have to agree with him. There looks like there's a lot of work to be done. Although two position groups to me really stood out as being a little bit more advanced than the rest of the team. One were the defensive line, particularly the ends.
Really?
Whenever there was, oh yeah, yeah, whenever there was 7-on-7 type of work being done, the ends were putting pressure on the quarterback. Whenever they went live with action, they were really getting some pressure on whoever was in that QB position. I think the quarterback, the transfer from Southern,
Jalen Woods.
took most. Jalen Woods, yeah, he took most of the snaps,
Hmm.
uh, and he was under a lot of pressure when the action was live, which may have contributed to his. From what I saw, he didn't look very accurate with the ball. Even the completions he made, the a lot of times the receivers would have to reach or slow down and turn back for a ball. Like, he just didn't look sharp with the passes. He looked like he had a commanding presence, right? He looks the part in the huddle, in the backfield. But the passing looked a little off, and that may be because he just still needs to establish rhythm with the receivers and all
Right.
that. I mean, he just get on campus. Uh,
Yeah, timing is everything in that. So hopefully that'll work itself out. But that's a great observation. Anything I know our before we leave the offense, we pride ourselves, or at least we have over the last several years, on a great running game. I know Grayson Goldsmith is back and Donovan Shepard is back. Did you see much out of the run game?
oh yeah, Goldsmith looks ready to play today. And I had my eye on him from the time he came out and was working with his position groups, was like everything he did looked like he was ready to go. Like he was in mid-season form, from warm-ups to drills to when he was in there. He wasn't in there for a lot of plays, but when he was in there, he showed out. I mean, he had one play with it. He broke to the outside and had I think it was a 40 or 50-yard gain. And he wasn't look bigger than last year, but he looks more defined,
Mm.
um, from a physique perspective,
Like he's been in
and
the
he looks
gym.
like he's been working it out, and he's been putting work in, and he's got a burst, man, and just the way that he approached his time on the field, he stood out. So did you had mentioned the other guy,
Donovan Shepard. Donovan
the
Shepard.
Donovan Shepherd.
The older running
So
back. Yeah.
he was out there as well, and he looked also like he was rounding into form. He caught a couple of passes out of the backfield. He had a nice little run as well. The freshman running back that is out of Oklahoma that people are excited about, he had some missteps, but again, it looked like a timing thing. It looked more like he was still getting accustomed to playing live with this group of players, but they're very excited about him. He's apparently highly touted, a guy out of Oklahoma, and some serious speed to go along with his football acumen. So we'll be excited to see how he's being used during.
Well, and I'm glad you brought that up. And we had a crowded backfield last year with a lot of guys who, perhaps maybe didn't get a chance, didn't get to show all that they could do. Even when Snipes went down last year, we were still okay from the running game perspective. And it's good to hear that it looks like we are still in position to have a strong running attack. Although my recollection is that Goldsmith and Shepard have different running styles. Goldsmith
Yep.
a little more of a kind of between the tackles guy, where Shepard was more of a kind of a scat back, catch the ball out of the backfield. Also, can kind of if you spread the defense out, can hit the lanes. So I think we have a lot of different change of pace type guys, which is great. I'm curious to see whoever ends up being the quarterback. We got two new quarterbacks, Woods and the other gentleman, Iowa Central. So a lot of good good guys coming in. And anything on the defensive side that you noticed?
The edge players, and the fact that we have quite a few that came back from last year's team, and they look like they have developed nicely. I think we played a couple of freshmen last year,
Hmm.
including some transfers, some FBS programs, and they got a lot of minutes last year. Took some shorts, but it looks like they developed from that, at least in the small sample size I was able to see during the spring game, and they were really putting the pressure on. And then we have a lot of young DBs, but
Hmm.
they were playing with some fire. One particular play that stands out when they were doing the 7-on-7 drills is last year, there was some frustration in watching the game and games in that there didn't seem to be a lot of defensive discipline. It seemed like players weren't where they're supposed to be when they were supposed to be, and we're giving up a lot of big plays unnecessarily. This spring game, it looked like that had been addressed.
Hmm.
And there was one play in particular where the quarterback threw a pass, and the defensive back was right where the pass was thrown to, and he didn't have to move much. He didn't like he was where exactly he was supposed to be. Made the interception and ran it down a little bit and ran out of bounds. And one of the offensive players, I guess, was frustrated, gave him a late hit, and well, they were ready to go at it. They were ready to scrap, but the safety that we had last year, I think it was number 11,
Sturdivant.
Cam
Sturdivant. Yeah, Cam Sturdivant.
so Cam Sturdivant stood out for he's clearly the leader of the defense. Because even during that incident, he went over there, calmed the young cornerback down, calmed the rest of the defense down, got them focused on the next play. And they immediately forgot about that late hit and trying to get back after the offense and just got positioned for the next play. And it was because of him, getting everybody refocused, which I thought was a fantastic sign that he's back, so he has a ton of experience
Hmm.
back there, and looks like he's going to be the leader or the quarterback of that defense for this upcoming season. And he may have an opportunity to actually play his what I would consider his natural position as safety, as opposed to playing a lot. Last year he played either in a linebacker position or up close to the line.
Yeah.
So hopefully he'll have an opportunity to play in that defensive backfield and really use his talents there, because he's a very active player, a very physical player, and with the development or hopeful development of the defensive line, at least the edges, he may not have to fill in those positions so much this year and be able to really shore up that defensive backfield.
Well, that's a great point. Sturdivant last year was definitely playing inside the box. He was up top.
Hmm.
He was up close. He was on the edge. He was blitzing a lot. And so, yeah, any opportunity for him to, not have to be up that close suggests that we may be able to get some pass rush and be able to put some schemes that will allow them not to have to do that. Not that he wasn't good at it, and he was certainly willing. He was kind of all over, but it does make you perhaps a little more vulnerable on the back end. So yeah, that's a outstanding analysis. I very much appreciate that. As it relates to the game, I mean, you pretty much covered all of the great points as to what was going on. Any last thoughts related to that? And then I will remind folks kind of what I thought was the significance of a couple of things. Go ahead.
Well, I will say there was again, this is my first spring game that I've attended ever, but there was a different energy there on the field, in the stadium. It was hard to quantify. It was like an enthusiasm and an expectation for something better from the folks who were watching. But then you also got a sense on the field from the players that there was a level of buying into what Coach Malone was putting down. Like, and I say that just because of the proficiency at which things ran. There may have been mistakes in executing plays, but there were no mistakes in staying focused on what was the mission of the day, right? You could tell that players were locked into what their coaches were telling them to do. They were used to changing to different activities at a certain pace without a lot of wasted time. They immediately got into their next set, no matter whether that was a drill or whether it was time to go out and do your 7-on-7 thing or whatever. It just felt like there was somebody who was in charge and running this in a very intentional way, and that the players were on board with that. And then there was also just a general feeling within the stadium of we're we're gonna take a next step. And it felt like that because of off the field how things were running. So I mentioned about the players, the alumni players, and what they were doing in the south end zone and how they were being treated and hosted. But then they had the cheerleaders come out,
Mm.
and the cheerleaders ran through a practice set of what they would do for a game, and they were just as intensely working on their routines as the guys were on the football field. And then there were announcers that were in the booth, and they were calling the different drills that were coming up and talking about, you know, make sure you get your season tickets. And there was that level of throughout the spring game as well. They were practicing on their work as well. The only thing that was missing was the band, right? Like if the band had been up, it would've been perfect. I would have been like, I would come to every spring game, man, because this is was a good time. I was going out there expecting to stay for about 15 minutes, but it was so enthralling. The enthralling part was the work that everybody was putting in to prepare for the season. And it was like it felt like it was from top down, like we are all in, from the administration, from the staff, from the support folks, from the cheerleaders, from everybody was all in to prepare for a better upcoming football season. And President Williams was out there as well. He was in the stands. He had brought a couple of guests with him up in the press box. He was out shaking hands with the folks who had come out and attended. So it felt like an all in effort. And like to me, the impression was we are serious about getting the Pirates back to the level that we think they should be, right? That we're putting the investment in both with I don't know how much money they're putting in, but it's clear that they're putting a monetary investment in there as well as a level of effort to improve the product. And the last thing I'll say is President Williams had remarked that they were preparing to lay a new turf down for this upcoming season. So I don't know what the design is going to look like and all that, but it looks like there'll be new turf for Armstrong Stadium for that first game in 2026.
Well, definitely glad that you were able to give us some overview of what it was like. And it does sound like it was a fun experience, which is what we want, right? Fun experience for everybody. The students who have been putting in time in the weight room and in the practices. That's the culmination of all of that. So they had a good time. Parents had a chance to come and see their kids, and to provide some exhibition of what they have to look forward to as well. And then right down to all the details that you mentioned. So that is awesome. I am very pleased to have the opportunity to hear more. What you just shared was so powerful and important because so much of what we hear or don't hear is what I would call very limited details, the small things that matter around this type of program. So, it's great to hear that the coaches are all in and the players seem to have bought in and that there's more than just we're all excited about having new head coach Van Malone there and several other players that have transferred in order to make the program better. But there's a larger narrative here that says that there are great things happening overall from the player who walked on to the player who has been highly touted and recruited. They all have to at some level buy in for the team to be successful. And that is an important thought process. I want to shout out or give some highlight to Professor Monique Smith, has had a class that was writing up some of the great backstories of some of these players this semester. And so approximately 23 23 or 24 of them had write-ups written about them, their motivations, their excitement to play for the program, and they were posted on Beyond the Field, which was on X. It's definitely worthwhile as it relates to humanizing this program or this sport that can often feel like they are just numbers. They're far more than that, and that's what I think you have shown here today is how much they're excited about what is to come. With that, I wanted to just again
Absolutely.
thank you for your contributions today, for broadening what we're hearing from down the way. And hopefully, we'll have a chance to perhaps hear more whenever you're able to be there. Or maybe final words, Mr. Walker.
Well, I'd just like to thank you for this platform that is showcasing football alumni. I was telling you before we went on live about I had an opportunity to take a look at a couple of your podcasts, and they are absolutely fantastic.
Thank you.
I mean, they were truly inspirational to see what our fellow Hamptonians who played football throughout the years, what they've done with their lives, and how they are making such an impact in their communities as leaders, and it's just that's the standard, and you're giving a tangible demonstration of that through this platform that I think more of us need to be aware of and plugged into. So absolutely, kudos to you, and I'm looking forward to this season. I think we're going to win more than 2 games this season, just off of discipline and focus alone. And then I'm gonna be very curious to see who Coach Malone brings in to kinda plug some of the holes. He had alluded to it in some of the things he released to the media that, he would be more than willing to go out and get some players in some areas of need as he assess where those needs are within the team. So it'll be very interesting to see who he goes and targets and who he brings in. And I think he's gonna bring in some good pieces, and the Pirates are gonna surprise some people this year. They're gonna surprise some people. I'll say it right now, we will not finish dead last in the CAA. We're gonna really jump on some folks, and we need to, there's some payback we gotta get to, A&T. Aggies, watch out. Payback, we those Bisons, we're coming for you. I'm saying it right now, there's some payback, and we gonna get our retribution, so I'll leave it at that.
I love it. Coach Malone is clearly setting a culture that is about more than just the X's and O's. And they seem to be buying into that, being great on the field and great in your walk. And yes, we will definitely win more than 2 games this year. So I'm not concerned about that at all. Thank you very much, Gerald. This has been a lot of fun. My name is TJ Jones, and I am your Hampton football enthusiast. And this has been your Pirate Players Then and Now podcast. Take care.